Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Cupertino City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, June 4th. It is 6:45, and we are ready to go. If you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be good. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. City Attorney, do you?
I do have an announcement and a request before we move on to the rest of the meeting. We have Councilmember Wei on the Zoom, and you can see her on your Zoom screen. She has requested to participate remotely under the Brown Act, under the emergency circumstance exception. That will require a vote of council to permit her to participate, and she is allowed to continue to participate. She has provided information on people who may be present during all or part of the meeting, and that includes a woman she's sharing the room with named Victoria Esquilo, registered nurse Catherine Ball, and certified nursing assistant Grace Album. None of them are any relation to Councilmember Wei. So with that, I will turn it over to the mayor, and if you wish, you may request a vote to allow Councilmember Wei to participate in the meeting.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to.
Point of order. I think we need to actually take the first roll call before we do.
Okay. All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Chow?
Here.
Councilmember Moore?
Here.
Councilmember Wei?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fruin?
Here.
Mayor Mohan?
Here. Okay. I'd like to make a motion now, right? I have to make a motion.
Motion, yes.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to include Councilmember Wei in today's meeting. She's participating on Zoom. And is there a second?
Second.
Please vote by lights.
And Mayor, I just want to point out that due to this circumstance, Council will need to vote by roll call vote this evening instead of electronic voting in order to allow Councilmember Wei to participate in the voting as well. So if I may, I will call roll call vote in lieu of the electronic voting. Okay.
Point of order. So before this vote, only 4 persons are in the meeting, right? So I think we can still use the light right now. Councilmember Moore can't vote on this one.
So Mayor,
right? Until
may I respond?
So I think, considering the process, it would be better for the 4 of you to vote on it.
Yeah.
By lights?
You may vote any way you wish. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and
because
vote by
the
light.
roll call didn't include Councilmember Wei, so that's why procedurally.
Okay.
Pardon.
Councilmember Moore?
Yeah.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I do have a question for the attorney with regards to, I know you mentioned there was Zoom, but for our video, we don't actually have the video portion here within the room, and I don't know if those projectors are including that, and if that is a procedural concern, because we can't actually hear, we cannot see Councilmember Wei.
Yeah, once she participates in the meeting, there should be a way for us to see her participate. So, and I'm hoping video can facilitate that.
Actually, we do see her now.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me too?
We're good, Councilmember Wei. We can see you and hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion and there's a second. Let's vote by lights to include Councilmember Wei at this council meeting.
The motion carries unanimously with Wei absent.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Wei, I think I speak for everyone here. our best wishes for a quick recovery. See you back at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
And I should just note for the record that just consistent with the emergency circumstances section, this is a physical health issue that prevents Councilmember Way from being present at the meeting. In case that wasn't clear, but just for the record.
And Mayor, also, I just want to also clarify that Councilmember Way was included in the roll call and did note that she was present.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's move on. Is there a closed session report, Mr. City Attorney?
There is nothing to report.
All right. Okay, now we get to the fun part, the ceremonial items. The first one, this is a proclamation recognizing June as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month. I am honored to recognize and celebrate June as the LGBTQ plus Pride Month. President Bill Clinton chose June in 1999 as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month to honor the Stonewall Uprising of June 1999. In 2011, President Obama expanded the month to LGBTQ plus Pride Month. So in Cupertino and beyond, LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies work tirelessly to create a more inclusive, understanding, and vibrant society. Their resilience in the face of adversity and the unwavering commitment to achieving equality for everyone inspires us all. With appreciation and admiration for the LGBTQ plus community, we proclaim June as Pride Month in Cupertino and present this proclamation to Hui Lee and the De Anza College Pride Center in recognition of its role in providing a safe, supportive, and welcoming space for students across the gender and sexuality spectrum to build community, find resources, and connect with the support needed to thrive in their college experience. In this spirit, I also want to remind everyone and invite the community to attend the upcoming annual Pride Month flag raising on Friday, June 7th at 3 p.m. at the Civic Center Plaza just outside City Hall. This annual event is an important opportunity to demonstrate civic pride and unity for the LGBTQ plus community. So thank you, and I would like to see Hui Lee come up and say a few words if you'd like to, and then we can all take a picture with you with the proclamation.
Yeah, thank you so much for honoring Pride Month and the Pride Center at De Anza. It's been such a journey ever since starting the Pride Center in fall 2022 is when we first opened, and so since then it has been such a success. A lot of students have expressed their gratitude for Pride Center to finally exist on the De Anza College campus and for them to be able to create community with one another. And this work wouldn't have been possible for the faculty coordinator of the Pride Center named Jamie Pelusi, who couldn't be here today, but she pretty much holds down the Pride Center and has provided so much for the students. And we just look forward to continue providing the services that we do and continue doing the work that we want to do to make sure that our students feel welcomed and included and just feeling like they can succeed at De Anza College. Thank you.
Thank you. We're doing the proclamation.
Yes,
right?
Mayor, actually it is at your station there. Just,
Oh, there.
yes. We just changed it up on you tonight.
Okay, maybe we can all go in front and take a picture with you. Thank you. So I'm honored to present this proclamation to you. And here it is. It has a lot of words in it, so I won't say anything more other than to congratulate you and recognize you for the integral part that you are of this community.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm sure. Safe up here, right? Small for me.
Okay, are there, Madam City Manager, are there any postponements or orders for the day?
No, Mayor.
Okay. We're moving on to oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for people wishing to address the council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the council and not on the agenda for discussion. The total time for oral communications will ordinarily be limited to 1 hour, but individual speakers are restricted to 3 minutes, depending on how it goes, depending on my discretion. Okay, so we can get started. And Madam City Clerk, how many cards do we have?
Yes, Mayor, we have 2 groups wishing to each consolidate their speaking times, so 10 minutes each is the rule. And we have 4 additional requests to speak. So that's 15 minutes. And then so that takes us to about 35 minutes. And I currently see no hands raised virtually.
Okay, so
Yes.
who's first?
Proceed? Okay. So first we have the Cupertino Sister Cities group, Helene Davis, Judy Wilson, Dawn McLeod, Rui Agrawal, Jocelyn Llanos.
There it is.
And then we have Sinshu Sister City group, followed by Brooke Ezit.
Ready to go?
Yes, welcome.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Mohan, City Council members, and staff. I'm Helene Davis, and I'm the president of the Cupertino Sister City Association. We're here to give you an update on our student exchange from Cupertino to Cupertino, Italy. We took a hiatus these last 4 years due to the pandemic, and we're really excited to be able to restart our program again, and that we sent 6 students and 1 chaperone from St. Joseph of Cupertino School to Cupertino, Italy. And I really want to give all my time to the students and chaperones, but first I just want to acknowledge my committee, WAVE committee. Thank you. There's only a couple of them here tonight. And I also really want to thank the City Council and the staff for hosting our Italian delegation on their visit to City Hall. And I especially want to thank the city for supporting our program and for supporting all of the sister city programs in Cupertino. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dawn McLeod, who was the chaperone this year.
Thank you. I was honored this year to chaperone 6 of our students to Cupertino and to Rome. I have been part of the association, or working with the association, since 2016 as a host, and then I attended the adult delegation in 2019. And I am proud to introduce some of our exchange students this year. And this is Ruhi, and she would like to present her experience.
Just use the arrows, right, if you want to advance it. So here's your slides here. And then if you want to advance, you should just have to, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Ruhi Agarwal.
And my name is Jocelyn Llanos. We're here today to represent our Italy trip highlights. To begin, in Cupertino, we visited so many fascinating places. including many cathedrals and castles. One example was the Castello de Cupertino, where we were able to explore the beautiful site and really see how buildings in Rome were built and created. We were also able to attend the Grotella Festival, an exciting experience where we bonded over the rides and enjoyed the awesome concert. It was very interesting. Moving along, next we attended school in Cupertino, which was just as fun. They greeted us with music and dancing, a great way to start our day. We got along well with the students and participated in the classroom, working together while writing terms and definitions for a few Italian words. We also had a nice lunch at the school with the students and our host families. The food they gave was delicious.
We also visited many places in Rome, including the Colosseum, the Trevi Fountain, the Pantheon, and so much more. In each of these buildings, there was a lot of history and so much artwork, and I learned a lot about Rome and its past. And when we visited Rome, we also visited the Vatican, which was filled with so much art. I learned a lot about sculptures and how life was in ancient Rome. We saw the Sistine Chapel. It was really beautiful. We got to look at the ceiling. Unfortunately, I couldn't take any pictures to show you guys, but it was really nice there. To conclude, we would like to talk about what we are thankful for from this trip and the highlights. I'm really glad we had the opportunity to see how life in another country is for kids our age. Going to school with them was a really fun experience, and I loved being able to see all the historical buildings and art in Cupertino and Rome.
I am so thankful for this eye-opening experience that also taught the use of independence and strengthened the connection between Cupertino and Cupertino. I am grateful for being chosen as one of the select few to attend this once-in-a-lifetime exchange. And I'm so happy I got to meet so many new and wonderful people, creating strong bonds and great memories. I hope this travel between sister cities will continue for years on to allow kids to enjoy this life-changing experience and strengthen our bond with Cupertino even more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have another group wishing to consolidate their time. That is
Kirsten, if we can take a pause and so a council can take a picture with the group.
Yeah. Very good.
Let's do that.
Okay, so we have the Sinchu Sister City group. They're consolidating their time. Angela Chen, Angelo Noguero, Grace Lin, Helena Wong, Anav Daya, and Betty Wong. If you would please join at the podium. Wonderful, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of Cupertino City Council and city staff. I'm Angela Chen, President of the Cupertino Sinchu Sister City Association. With me tonight is our team of 2024, which includes 25 student families and their and our 2 teacher chaperones, 1 student coordinator, and 2 association members, including myself. Together, we made an annual visit to our sister city, Hsinchu, representing City of Cupertino, the Cupertino Union School District, and Fremont Union High School District. We were received by Mayor Gao Hong'an of Hsinchu, and we also celebrated our 20th anniversary of our exchange program with our partners in Hsinchu. In the next few minutes, you're going to hear the highlights of our program given by our student and teacher representatives. And we're going to continue our celebration of our anniversary in October when Hsinchu delegation visits us. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our student coordinator, Mr. Angelo Noguera of Kennedy Middle School.
Thank you, Ms. Chen and City Council, for the opportunity to share our program for 2024. Our program's first student exchange started in 2004, and we take 25 students from Fremont Union High School District and Cupertino Union School District for a 1-week exchange where they get the chance to experience the culture, education, and see how our 2 cities are connected. Our delegation this year, as shown on the slide, as we're welcomed at Hualien Junior High on our first day, consisted of 8 students from Fremont Union, 17 students from Cupertino Union, our 2 teacher chaperones from Cupertino Union, as well as our board members. I hope today our slides give you an idea of the activities that are planned for us this entire week. Our first school visit was at Hualien Junior High, a school we've experienced a very long and positive relationship with. Here, our students are able to experience classes such as glass blowing, and archery taught by an Olympic medalist. That's our group photo right there. At our second school, Chinhua Junior High, our students are able to experience watercoloring classes, and here it's being taught by our principal at Chinhua. Chinese calligraphy, as well as take home some preserved flowers for display. And here is the finished product from our students. At our final school visit at Houston Junior High School, our students got a chance to learn, dance, and even watch a performance by the local school dance team. Even our adults get a chance to participate in all the activities that we have, as well as participate in a percussion class where they get to learn a traditional Taiwanese song and play it in front of all their host students. During our formal delegation meeting with Mayor Gao at Hsinchu City Hall, our students also had a chance to learn more about the history and culture and what connects our 2 cities through business, research, and technology. Here, Mayor Gao is presenting our students with the city gifts and one of many delegation pictures throughout our time in Hsinchu, this time at Hsinchu City Hall. It's during all this time from City Hall to our schools that every member of the Hsinchu community makes our students feel like not their guests, but important members of the school and Hsinchu community. Throughout our time as well, our students have a chance to travel with their host students throughout, in this case, a full day trip to Taipei. So their host students also got to miss school, which was great for them, right? We started off at Duhua Street, which was the early commercial and trade center of Taipei, ending at modern day Taipei 101. It's through these moments, sharing food, playing games, and laughing at each other that we see our students develop genuine relationships and memories. That's probably the best and greatest reward that we have for our program. We're thankful for all of our friends in Hsinchu who are able to create this experience for us, all of our volunteers in Cupertino, as well as our city council for supporting us for so many years. And we look forward to hosting these same students again in October. And now I'd like to welcome Ms. Grace Lin, one of our teacher chaperones, for her to share her thoughts on our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noguera. Good evening. My name is Grace Lin. I'm currently a 4th grade teacher at Muir Elementary School. What's special about this trip is that I used to be on the opposite side of this program, since I used to teach at the International Bilingual School of Hsinchu Science Park, one of the host schools in Hsinchu, Taiwan. Even though I taught in Taiwan for over 10 years, it was fascinating to see all of the specialty classes that were offered at other schools, something I never got a chance to explore while I was there, including but not limited to archery, traditional Taiwanese dance, glass making, calligraphy, and ultimate frisbee. The scrumptious food, the picturesque sights, and the friendly people, everything I remembered Taiwan to be. And I thought it'd never happen, but at one point in the trip, I felt like I had too many boba teas. But I was really happy to experience this experience with all of the students. And so I would like to introduce one of our students, Alina, to the stage to speak. Thank you.
My name is Alina Wong, an 8th grader at Miller Middle School. Recently, I had the privilege to participate in the exchange program to Hsinchu, Taiwan. I have never met so many new people, made so many new friends, and created so many new memories in the span of just 1 week. Picking a single highlight from that week would be impossible, but going to Taipei 101 definitely deserves a mention. Living with another family for a whole week was one of the moments that I felt most independent. I couldn't just call out, "Mom, Dad, can you help me with this?" Throughout the trip, I saw how much I had matured. It was hard to say goodbye to everyone as we had been together for a whole week. Even classmates I went to school with, who I'd just known for a few days, had warmed up to me and showered me with many heartful gifts. To wrap this all up, I wanted to thank everyone who made this trip possible. It wouldn't have been the same without their support. These memories will stay with me forever and ever. Let me introduce our next speaker, Arnav.
I remember when I was at the top of Taipei 101. Everybody was dancing, laughing, thinking about when we'll see each other after this trip. Soon enough, we're all racing downstairs, floor after floor, escalator after escalator. And now I'm standing here. When I first strolled into class, I remember everybody crowding around my desk like I was some sort of celebrity. They bombarded me with questions, trying to figure out who this mysterious American kid was. During English class, I breezed through what seemed like common sense to me. But my classmates looked like they were deciphering ancient hieroglyphics. When the bell rang, they crowded around my desk, adding me on every social media platform and challenging me to Clash Royale. I won the games, but their quirky personalities quickly won me over. Everybody I met was incredibly friendly, something that's rare to see elsewhere. Maybe some people see Taiwan as a poor country, but I see their cultures as rich. They never let their smiles fade, whether it was a boring math class or a fun PE class. I won't forget our unbelievable night outs, beautiful alleys on the streets, the tasty food I picked up at 7-Eleven, and, most importantly, how to use chopsticks. Now I want to introduce Betty.
Hello, my name is Betty Huang, and I am currently an 8th grader at Miller Middle School. Going to Taiwan was such a great experience for me, since I got to make new friends, make good memories, and learn so much about the cultures and the lives of the students living in Taiwan. I got to spend a whole week with the most wonderful family and go to school every day with the most welcoming students I've ever met. My favorite part of the whole trip was going to Taipei, since I got to meet all of the other host families too. This trip has taught me so much about responsibility, and I would 100% recommend this to other students. Thank you, City Council, for supporting us with this program, and we look forward to more fun things in the future.
Okay, so we go up for another
Would you like another photo opportunity? Okay.
That concludes our program. We thank Cupertino for your support and help through years, for the past 20 years.
Okay, let's come up for a picture. Yes.
So, Mayor, we still have 4 additional speakers in person and 1 virtually. Yes.
Okay.
So Brooke Ezett, followed by Connie Cunningham, followed by Susan Basie, followed by Patricia Boone. Welcome, Brooke.
Good evening. A couple of weeks ago, resident Rhoda Fry noted changes in the city's organization chart. The residents had been at the top of the chart, she stated, and now, to quote Ms. Fry, the chart had been decapitated. What does this Marie Antoinette chart tell the residents? It means that they do not count, they are not considered, and they do not matter. I hope the voters remember this, and this is what the Majority Council thinks of you. During the 2022 election, majority candidates campaigned on transparency, getting along, and local control, all taken from the Better Cupertino playbook because those points resonated with the electorate. This evaporated when the majority was sworn in. Transparency, a thing of the past. Oral communications has been restricted to limit comment. More and more items are on the consent calendar because heaven forbid there would be a discussion and residents would learn what is going on in the local government they finance. The city manager has become the gatekeeper for council records, upending the reporting structure outlined in the municipal code. Perhaps we need an investigation or a referral to the DA's office for a code violation. Let's all get along. What does that have to do with the investigation and the harassment of council members who ask questions? I wonder if the contract for investigative services was signed before the council approved it. Isn't that the tail wagging the dog? And local control? Why was the housing element repeatedly delayed? Try as you may, you cannot blame the previous councils for this, which puts us on the state's radar and can and will lessen local control. I hope the invisible citizens of Cupertino go to the polls in November and contrast the actions of the council majority with their feel-good rhetoric, and the invisible citizens of Cupertino will make different choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Next we have Connie Cunningham, followed by Susan Basie, followed by Patricia Boone. Welcome, Connie.
Good evening. Excuse me, Kirsten, are you able to put the maps up, or should I put them up here?
If you set them...
I haven't done this before. So. Oh, they just go like that? Yay. So then that looks like... What? Is that upside down? I think that's upside down. This is right side up to me. Is that where it's supposed to be? Right side up to me, right? Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Moen, Vice Mayor Fruin, and council members. I implore the city to make written findings to disapprove SB 330 pre-application PR 2024-017 called O Linda Vista, and any other proposal that uses the law to encroach into the hillsides. This is off of the Planning Division's chart, and this blue dot shows you where it is located. Once people have encroached into an area, it is almost impossible to reverse course. It will reduce the amount of open space near our city, reducing space for wildlife to live, breed, and thrive. People continue to encroach into wildlife areas. Cupertino has other, better options for housing. We know that because the state mandated building, 4,588 houses into our new housing element. Cupertino's new HE was carefully written to provide infill housing to make room for more people. Infill SB 330 projects are very good ideas. These on the hillsides are not. The HE did not put any housing sites on residential hillsides. Note 1 on page B5-1 says that residential hillside classification is intended to protect environmentally sensitive areas from extensive development and to protect human life from hazards associated with floods, fires, and unstable terrain. Further, the wildland urban interface map shown in Chapter 16 of the Muni Code shows that the hillsides are high fire risk. I urge the city to make written findings that these proposed developments are inconsistent with SB 330 sections D, 4, and 5 found on page 7 and 8 of the law itself as to one of the following. First, the location is surrounded by several preserves. McClellan Ranch Preserve, Stephen Creek County Park, Pachetti Ranch Open Space, Fremont Older. Also, Stevens Creek itself is a riparian habitat for endangered species. Stevens Creek flows north from the hills to the bay, from above the reservoir, through Stevens Creek County Park and along the McClellan Ranch Preserve. Secondly, this property is unlikely to have adequate water or wastewater facilities to serve the project. The area is zoned for only a few homes. The new project, and perhaps that other one, will be approximately 60 homes. Thirdly, the housing development project is inconsistent with both the jurisdiction zoning, blah, 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 as it existed on the date the application was deemed complete. Therefore, the third paragraph D5 will apply when council approves rezoning, which is in process now. Cupertino has carefully written its HE within the law. BMR rate projects are intended to be near work, school, and other amenities. Cupertino leaders and residents have made it clear that they value nature and open space.
Thank you.
Thank you for this time.
Next we have Susan Bassey, followed by Patricia Boone, and there was one person with their hand raised before the cutoff, Peggy Griffin, for virtually. Welcome, Susan.
Good evening. My name is Susan Bassey. I'm wearing two hats. I'm a longtime Santa Clara County resident. This is my first time being at a city council meeting in Cupertino. And I'm actually here to talk about just a couple of things. The first is that today I requested records from the city of Los Altos, and I live streamed it on my YouTube channel. I'm an investigative reporter. I write for the Davis Vanguard and for other publications, and I'm a social media journalist. And Los Altos absolutely did not comply with the public records law related to access to public records. My experience with them was horrific, and we were seeking records related to how much funding they had given Women SV, a nonprofit organization that your city also funded in 2022 and 2023. I did send an email. It was after the cutoff time, but I also want to give a little bit of praise because I did live stream it and she didn't flinch at all. But Christina, your city clerk, gave us records. We came in at lunchtime, and so the regular person wasn't at the desk, and she did exactly what the law says she was supposed to do. She made a diligent search to find the records that we wanted to access and inspect, and she knew that we were being delayed because of the lunch hour, and she emailed me the records. But what was in those records was startling, and that's what I'd like to talk about tonight. In 2022, a woman by the name of Ruth Patrick Darling, she goes by various names and it can be confusing to keep up with who she is, ran a nonprofit by the name of Women SV that was based in Los Altos. In 2023, in February of 2023, we began reporting. Our investigative team began reporting on this nonprofit, and we found over 50 women that came to me with patterns that the nonprofit was not only not offering the services that they had represented to the public and in obtaining public and private donations, but they were referring them to divorce lawyers that were actually throwing their cases. And these women lost their homes, their children, they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was all for a network of high asset divorce attorneys. That process of doing that is known as running and capping. It is illegal, it is problematic, and the impact is quite significant. The 50 women spoke to me on condition of anonymity, off record. We named them Jane Doe 1 through 50, and now we have found 80. One of the largest donors to Women SV was from Cupertino. And so I'm going to ask you to please investigate the grant funds and how you were duped into donating to the nonprofit and believing Women SV. Tonight, you saw how your money can have impact. You saw those children come up, their parents here, they were proud of them, and that's something you could feel, you could see how you're spending money. But the tax money, $21,000, $1,000 of which was at the discretion of the mayor, went to Women SV, and it actually did harm.
Susan, that is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, I just want to make one thing clear, that the written comments were received by the clerk's office. They were past the cutoff, but we will post them tomorrow with the late written communications.
Okay.
So our next speaker is Patricia Boone. Welcome, Patricia.
Hi, I'd like to do a follow-up from what Susan had spoken about, because I am one of the Jane Does, and I'm the only Jane Doe that is willing to speak. I come to you tonight on behalf of myself and the many other victims of Women SB who have been silenced. They have not only been silenced by abusive spouses or partners, but we've also been silenced by Women SV. Domestic abuse, including coercive control, is very dangerous and damaging. It not only damages the spouses who are victims, but it also damages the children who are used as weapons in family court. I'm not afraid to speak up, but many people are. They're afraid of retribution. Someone has to be our voice. I will be our voice. I would like to request that Women SV no longer obtain funding from the city of Cupertino or the county of Santa Clara. Additionally, the $500,000 in funding they've already received through the county of Santa Clara and various grants be investigated as to where the money was actually spent. I can say with 90% accuracy, it was not spent on victims. As a client of Women SV, we were told to not associate with anybody outside of Women SV. We had to keep our friendships quiet. We weren't even allowed to say hello to somebody if we saw them downtown. Many of us have liens on our homes. We've had our bank accounts depleted, our credit cards maxed out, and most importantly, our children have been taken away. All of this because we were abused and we went to an organization that was supposed to help us. Instead of helping us, they turned against us and shared our private information that would later be used against us. We were betrayed once again. There are other organizations who provide counseling support, resources, and legal aid who would be more deserving of the funds, and they are based locally. I know Women SV used to be in Los Altos, but now its founding member, Ruth Patrick Darlene, is no longer in Los Altos, but in Hawaii. This was a permanent move. She chose to sell her condominium. She is not even local. She's not even in the county. As a result of my association with Women SV, I have lost my son. He was forced to live full-time with his perpetrator. He is now allegedly following in his father's footsteps and also assaulting children. My daughters were assaulted by the same perpetrator who was not even their father. The family home that has been with us since 1964 has multiple liens on it as a result of using the Hoover and Kropelka law firm. This is a law firm where James Hoover sits on the advisory board of an organization that claims to take pride in helping abuse victims. Only in many cases, the victims are further victimized by an organization that we had hopes of helping us, and we trusted them. You can ask my son, who is now 18 years old, how that all worked out for him. He's been completely isolated from a family who loves him and who tried to protect him from further abuse. I'm requesting to please allocate any funds requested by Women SV to an organization that has a better track record for helping domestic abuse victims and open an investigation on the money that you have already received.
Thank you, Patricia. That is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one person requesting to speak virtually with their hand raised before the cutoff, and that is Peggy Griffin. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you, Kirsten. And could you show my slide, please?
Yes.
Recently, in fact, quite a while ago, probably a month or two ago, it came to light that a new org chart had appeared, and in yellow are the changes that were made. The citizens of Cupertino were eliminated. The city treasurer was eliminated. Economic development was promoted to reporting straight to the city manager, along with public affairs changing to communications, and then 2 additional positions, emergency services and communication outreach. Changes happen in an organization, but the citizens of Cupertino need to be on top. That is who the city council members report to. They are held accountable to the voters of Cupertino, and our municipal code and the state code references the city treasurer. You don't just eliminate the treasurer from the org chart. I'm requesting that you fix the org chart, add back in the city treasurer and the citizens of Cupertino. It reflects the actual reporting mechanism. Without that, you have got it shows the disregard for community input that we have seen over the last 2 years. So please, I've heard one council member in the past said she was okay with restoring it. So let's do it. It's a simple fix. Fix it, add the city treasurer back in, make it match the city code and the state code. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Mayor, no additional speakers for this item.
Okay. Okay, we are done with the oral communications section of the agenda. Moving on to the consent calendar. Madam City Manager, are there any items that have been pulled from the consent calendar?
Yes, Mayor. Item 7 has been pulled by Councilmember Mort.
Okay, Councilmember.
Mayor.
Excuse me?
So I got a late request to pull item 8, so I'm pulling that now. I suppose the new procedure is we vote on whether we would pull it or not, right?
Yes, you could. It will take 3 votes of the council to pull an item after 12 o'clock today. So you're making a request to pull that item. Well, should you? I think you should probably make that request by motion.
Yeah. So do I do that now?
I would recommend doing that now.
Okay. So do I do that separately from item 7, right?
Item 7 has been removed from consent.
Okay.
So if you'd like to ask council to remove item 8, I would make that motion now.
Okay. So I make the motion to pull item 8 from consent due to a late request, and also this item is requesting an additional budget of 500,000 increase. Thank you.
Through the mayor.
Okay. Can I make a quick comment? Have these questions been answered before?
We have not received any questions on items 8.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Moore, second.
Okay, so we have a motion to take number 8 off the agenda. So we have a motion, we have a second. And let's vote by, how do we do this?
Roll call vote,
Roll
Mayor.
call. Let's
Yes.
do a roll call vote to facilitate Councilmember Wei being on Zoom.
Councilmember Chow?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Wei?
No.
Vice Mayor Fruin?
No.
Mayor Mohan?
No.
The motion fails with Chow and Moore voting yes.
Okay, let's go back to item number 7. Councilmember Moore, you did not state your reason when you asked for this item to be pulled. In the interim, have your questions been answered?
No, they haven't. So with regards to item 7, I want to have it be transparent that we have a separate sheriff's donation from Apple, which began in 2018. And I have brought this issue up a number of times, my concern being the appropriate way to designate this amount of money with regards to the sheriff's contract, that we have.
Okay, we don't really, we can discuss it later when it goes on the agenda. So this was your reason for pulling item number 7, that you had some questions about the Apple donation. So let's move take item number 7 off the consent calendar and move it to after public hearings. And before the action calendar, there are no action calendar items, so it'll be after item number 14, the public hearings.
Yeah, so no vote is required, Mayor. We can just proceed. It will stay on the agenda, be heard after the public hearings, and we can proceed to public comment on the consent calendar.
Okay, so we have to again take a roll call vote. Oh, hang on.
I believe the city attorney just said that a vote wasn't necessary.
Yeah, we could move to public comment. The item 7 will be heard after the public hearings.
Okay, so any public comments on the consent calendar other than item number 7, which will be deliberated on later in the agenda? 7 will be discussed later.
It'll be discussed after the budget.
Oh, okay, after the action.
Yes.
After the public hearings. Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing any comments on the consent calendar.
Mayor, I see 2 hands raised virtually.
Okay, all right, let's go with it.
Okay, just a reminder, anyone wishing to comment on the remaining items on the consent calendar, please have your hands raised on Zoom within the next 9 minutes, or a blue speaker card submitted in Community Hall. So we have Peggy Griffin and San R. Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening, council members and staff. I'm speaking to item 8, Jollyman Park. This is, it's a surprise. It's a year late. Right now, the public was expecting that this project was going to be completed. Last we heard was they were taking bids last summer, and it was going to be under construction, and it was going to be completed because the grants required it. There was a time limit. What happened to Jollyman All-Inclusive Playground must meet the schedule requirements set forth on our grant agreement? What happened to that? It was already postponed a year, now it's 2 years, and now I look at the extension of the MIG contract, and it's 2026. So how does that relate to our grant? Are we going to lose that eventually because this has slipped so much? And the total is already $5 million when you look at everything that's been charged. The other thing I see is that you're adding $400,000 for management services. What happened? That was covered in staff. Where did this come from? I mean, it's like the project that just keeps adding money. It's a money sink. And now in the fine print, I read that things are going to be reduced. So you've taken money from Art in Lieu Fund. You've taken money from the park's dedication. And we're going to get less than what we started with. Where's the conceptual design now? What's going to be eliminated? We don't know. This needs to come out where public and the council can discuss it. Don't just rubber stamp it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Next we have San R, followed by Luis Sadati. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Sheila and City Council. I would like to comment on consent calendar agenda item 9. Agenda item 9 is proposing a fixed cost increase annually of, I believe, 4%, starting from 2024 for the spend item on annual services. In 2005, our spend was $166,000, and it stayed constant through a period almost till 2009, and then it rose to $199, and again stayed constant till almost 2014. When I look at 2023, 2024, we are at $258,000 and $264,000. However, starting from 2025, the cost is steeply risen to $330,000, and thereafter, it is rising by nearly $14,000 every year to where it gets to 452,000 by 2033. So please explain how this cost, which was more or less constant and changing by small amounts from 2005 to 2023, now is suddenly changing to rise in one shot from 264K to 330K, and starting from next year, will go from 330K to 452K. What are we spending on? Why are these costs rising? And if they're rising so rapidly, why are we not looking at all possible options for animal services and putting it out to bid? No other prices were listed. No other animal services vendors' quotes were listed. What services are we getting for the extra money? And more importantly, what is animal services going to cover and not cover? I think this is an item that is raising our costs steeply and should not be on consent calendar. It is unfortunate that items that should be open to council discussion, should be open to public input, and should be open to debate to see where council members stand on these items are being put on consent calendar. It's even more unfortunate that it's become extremely difficult to pull these items. If they're brought up late, they cannot be pulled without a vote. And today we just saw the 3 council members that do not support transparency and discussion on items like this. Items that would allow for public visibility to who amongst the council members on dais stands where on these positions are no longer visible to the public. So I urge you, while you're voting, to please consider agenda item 9 and pull it from the consent calendar and have a discussion on why these costs are rising so steeply every year by 14,000 when they have not risen for the past 15 years. And I ask you to please exercise fiscal restraint. Thank you.
Thank you, San. Next we have Louise Sidati, followed by Lisa, followed by Rhoda Fry. Welcome, Louise.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. Good evening to our mayor, our vice mayor, our council members, and especially to our council member Hung Wei, who shows her continued dedication to our city, that even when she is in hospital, she is still serving our community. Deep appreciations to her. I want to speak about the Jollyman all-inclusive structure, and I really commend the city for all the time you spent in getting all the input from the city, from the residents. I remember all the opportunities that the residents were given for their input, and all the concepts and the design input and discussions at meetings. And now the city is putting in the time and has a conceptual plan, and that will allow them to obtain grants. A lot of speakers have previously complained about all the different costs that the city has spent and what they're spending on this, that, and everything. And here the city, I really commend the city staff for doing the right thing, coming up with a a plan that you can go out and then with that plan, obtain grants to cover the monies needed. So kudos to you, and people who say that this process should be shortened are not aware of how time-consuming obtaining grants are, and that it's really necessary when you're talking about a project like Jollyman or any other project which requires millions of dollars. So it's like easy for some people to complain about the money that the city is spending, and yet turn around and complain about the steps that the city is doing to go about obtaining grants to get money to cover for our services. And so when people talk about transparency, they really cannot just talk about transparency. They need to be transparent, not just talk about being transparent. And an organizational chart regarding the budget does not represent a lack of transparency on the council majority. during budget, the true fact is it's only the city staff who determine and with input from the residents, of course, ultimately, but.
Thank you, Luis. That is your time. And next we have Lisa, followed by Rhoda Fry. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. So I would just like, on item 8, I would like to thank Peggy Griffin for her comments, and I agree with the very valid questions she's asking, and the confusion that is I guess swirling over funding. And also, a community member has just recently visited an all-inclusive park in San Jose where the cost was far less and it's already built. So I agree. If the grant money that we had, and I'm sorry, I was completely confused by the previous speaker just before me with the grant speaking, because Peggy's point was that there were grants in place that if the project didn't move forward, we would lose that money. It would, quote unquote, expire. So I do share those concerns because I remember those conversations. And if something's changed, it would be really great if it could be explained. If those have been lost, are you after bigger grants and what's the potential of getting them, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know as time goes by, costs go up. And it's something to be concerned about and something to discuss publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And next we have Rhoda Fry. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, good evening, council members. With respect to item number 9, I'd like the public to have greater input on that. It troubles me that the city manager will be able to extend the contract through 2033 without public comment or it going to council. So I'd like that, please consider that. The other one, I did write in on number 8. I hope you have my comments. They were sent at 11:40 this morning, so you should have them. You know, the MIG contract, that's going up by over 10%. That's a lot, especially when we consider that there was a lot of, you know, there was an ability, there should have been, I didn't have time to look through the past contracts, but typically our contracts already have an ability to go over and above. So I just find that to be rather shocking. And also this, it seems like there's this late addition of 4-leaf. What happened there was that it just seems like it's an add-on and again and again and again. So I'd like to echo what Peggy Griffin said earlier this evening, also about it is about public input and about the city residents being on top of the org chart. And this actually does speak to item 9 and this item as well. The other thing I did write in about is, and I've talked about it at council a number of times, is that we need to get businesses in Cupertino to have business licenses. And I look back and it looks like to me that MIG and 4-leaf do not have business licenses in Cupertino. And low-hanging fruit, you know, if we have a contract with somebody, when we make a contract, let's please include that they have an active business license. You know, we make sure they have liability insurance, et cetera. And, you know, if you're doing business in Cupertino, you need a business license. We need to share the load. And I you know, the sheriff's contract is coming up later. You know, here's the thing, is to me, it doesn't look like the businesses are sharing the load with residents as far as paying for sheriffs. So when people get a business license, it goes a short way toward helping with that. The other thing is looking through accounts payable. It looks like MIG is referred to in 2 different ways. So if we're looking through the accounts payable, it would be good to see it named in the same way so that, you know, we can track it a little better. So anyway, I want to thank you very much, and also wish Councilmember Wade.
Thank you, Rhoda. That's your time. Mayor, no additional speakers for this item.
So can I ask staff to answer some of the questions that's still allowed for consent agenda items, right? I believe I have done that before.
Today or?
There were questions from the public in public comments, so I believe we are allowed to ask the staff to answer those questions. We have done this before for consent agenda items.
I think it'd be appropriate for staff to follow up with council on the questions that were asked.
Not answering them right now?
No.
Is that against the council procedure? Or
No,
is it
not necessarily. I mean, I think it is the discretion of the mayor. I just think questions about city operations, or if to the extent they're not to the extent that council can oversee them, I don't think that they're appropriate for discussion on the consent calendar.
They have questions on the items on the agenda about the contract amount that increases, about
and council chose to keep it on the consent calendar because council was comfortable voting based on the staff recommendation.
Could I ask the city manager if she can answer them? If not, she can answer them after the meeting. Can I ask the city manager to decide?
The city manager certainly can speak for herself.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's appropriate to ask, then I would like the staff to answer. Thank you.
My concern would be I'm not sure it's fair to put staff on the spot for asking questions which just come up now, and that's the reason we have a process by which you let staff know when you're pulling an item of consent, so that gives time to for staff to respond to your comments. I'm going to defer to the city manager. If there's something very straightforward or easy to answer, I'd be okay with that. But in general, we do have a process for pulling items off consent, and I would rather some thought goes into it and some time for staff to respond. These are detailed questions, and we'd rather get the right questions than just a quick answer.
Mayor, I don't believe that we received any questions on the Jollymint contract, but more than happy to follow up with Ms. Griffin and others. I think I noted questions on the animal services contract. CDD can follow up with Sanart. I've noted several questions that some of them are in the supplemental, but I mean, to date, I have not received any questions on the MIG contract, but more than happy to follow up.
That would be not today.
We'll reach out to the public. I mean, if we have the questions and the contact, we'll definitely reach out.
Okay. Councilmember Chow?
Just to clarify, I did not receive any question from the public by Monday morning, which is why I didn't submit any questions. And the comments did come in today pretty late in the afternoon, so that's why I had to make this request to pull at the council on the dais. And our procedure did allow that. That's why I tried to follow the procedure. And if the staff can answer some of these late questions after the meeting, that would be great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Chow. Councilmember Moore?
Thank you. So, through the mayor, this question for the city attorney. If we feel that there were a number of questions raised on a couple of items that call our consideration of the vote into question, at this point, can we continue 8 and 9 and then have the questions answered and have it come back at the next council meeting? Is that a possibility, or do we just parse out these two items and essentially we're going to potentially end up in an abstain situation because we feel that there's more information that needs to be considered?
I think you could make that motion.
through the mayor, so that I could move that we continue items 8 and 9 in order to provide an opportunity for the questions from the members of the public, and any further questions that the city council might have may be addressed at the next meeting available.
Second.
As far as number 8 was concerned, we already we took a vote that it stays on consent.
So Mayor, there's a motion to continue these items on the table. It's non-debatable, so I would recommend calling for a vote on that motion.
On the motion to
continue items 8 and 9.
Okay. Why wouldn't, I mean, if there was some straightforward questions about both these items, why couldn't staff answer these questions and everyone is happy?
So, Mayor, if you don't think the motion is appropriate, then ultimately it's your decision as to allow a vote on it or not. That was my advice, but certainly it's ultimately your decision to allow a vote on it or not.
Okay. No, I'm hesitant to pull these items because it delays the whole process, and we have packed agendas for future council meetings. So just to bring it back again. For questions to be answered, which can be answered in some other ways, would be my recommendation. So
we can just vote on the motion then.
Okay, we'll vote. What is the motion? Okay. So we can. So the motion is to continue number 8 and 9 to the next council meeting. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
Excuse me. That's Councilmember.
That is
Councilmember Moore's motion. I have seconded it.
All right.
So we can vote on that, and then there could be another motion on the other items, or that could include 8 or 9.
All right. So the motion is your motion is to pull number 8 and 9 to the next meeting. Okay, let's vote. No, not
roll
by
call
lights.
vote, Mayor. I'll take the roll call if that's okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Chow.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Wei.
No.
Vice Mayor Fruin.
No.
Mayor Mohan.
No.
The motion fails with Chow and Moore voting yes.
I'll offer a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 7.
I'll second it.
Pardon, through the mayor, city attorney, I'd like to have a separate vote on items 8 and 9.
You may register your objections on 8 and 9 when you vote.
So we would need to be voting on each item separately. Otherwise, if we're doing an omnibus vote of sorts, then it's not fair that we would have to vote everything down when we only have an issue with these two.
You can vote for the consent calendar, but dissent on items 8 and 9.
Okay, because we're doing a oral roll call vote.
Right,
Do it that way.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Roll call, Mayor.
Yes, please.
Okay. Councilmember Chow.
So I'll approve all the items except item 8 and 9 that I wish to have more information on them.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the end. For 8 and 9, you wish to vote how?
I wish to have more information on them, so I'm not voting for 8 or 9.
So is it an abstention, a no vote, or a absent?
Abstention.
Abstention.
Yeah.
Councilmember Moore.
Okay. Aye on items 3, 4, 5, and 6. Nay on 8 and 9. And then we have an aye on 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, and 12. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Fruin.
Aye.
I apologize. Councilmember Wei.
Aye.
Mayor Mohan.
Aye.
So the motion carries. The motion for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, and 12 carries unanimously. The motion and the bifurcated part of the motion for 8 and 9 carries with Moore and Chow abstaining.
More voting no and
More
Chow
voting no
abstaining.
and Chow abstaining. Okay.
Mayor, can I ask for a 5-minute recess?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's take a recess for 5 minutes. It's 8:02. Let's get back here by about 8, a little before 10 after 8. Thank you. Ready to continue? We're on to public hearings. Item number 13, which is approve the renewal with no increase of the 1992 storm drain fee and renewal of the 2019 clean water and storm protection fee with a 2.62% increase. And Madam City Manager, I think there's a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we have a brief presentation before the council walk you through. This is an annual CPI increase for our 2019 Clean Water and Storm Prevention Program fee. And both staff are available to answer any questions after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Chad Mosley, Director of Public Works, and I have with me Ursula Sarova, the Environmental and Sustainability Programs Manager. She is the APN fee guru, so I'm going to let her take it.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Mon, council members. I am, who was just introduced, this presentation regarding the renewal of the city's 2 stormwater fees, which we bring to council annually this time of year. And since this is a recurring item and very similar to previous years, I am keeping the presentation brief. Cupertino is required under permit to keep our stormwater clean. The permit is called the San Francisco Bay National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit, aka the Municipal Regional Permit, and it covers 76 agencies in the Bay Area and establishes requirements for stormwater pollution prevention. It is over 700 pages long, grew out of the Clean Water Act, and includes about 20 categories of compliance that the city must adhere to. The city has 2 property-based fees in place to support our compliance activities. These fees require an annual renewal process in advance of the county assessing the fee via property tax bills. The first fee was adopted in 1992, and the second fee was adopted in 2019. And rates for the fees are based on land use as shown here, and they both appear on property tax bills as shown on the next slide, which is not showing. I don't know what we do if it doesn't advance. Magic ideas?
The next slide just shows what a typical property tax bill is and the line items where it's there. So if you look at your property tax bill, you'll see the same lines there.
So I do have the slides if you'd like to wait a moment, I can cue them up.
Okay. That way you'll get to see the adorable pictures of people doing things related to stormwater and cleaning things. We're on slide 4 when you get there.
I was just going to ask that, okay.
And it'll show examples of the kind of work that we do, the preventative, responsive, and educational activities. Here we go. Which ensure our compliance with the permit. It includes responding to spills, conducting annual preemptive inspections, reviewing building plans, coordinating installation of new trash capture devices, and other activities include hands-on learning at McClellan Ranch Preserve, education during outreach events, and administrative work to gather and track data and report out annually as required by the permit. We can go to the next slide. As part of our work, we also conduct 2 volunteer-driven creek cleanup events each year and do additional cleanups in areas less accessible to volunteers. Next slide. We have our own Vector truck to clean and maintain over 2,000 storm drains, many of which are fitted with special devices to keep trash from entering the system and being carried to our creeks. Our program also covers half the expense of street sweeping in the city. To further assist with compliance, we are part of a regional organization called the Santa Clara Valley Urban Runoff Pollution Prevention Program, which conducts required water sampling, on-land visual trash assessments, and extensive guidance for compliance and for the preparation and submission of our extensive annual report that we submit to the Regional Water Board. This fiscal year, we also conducted a project to assess the outfalls in the city to identify those that may need repair or maintenance. Next slide. In 2019, as part of establishing the newer fee, Council approved a cost share program that is available to low-income property owners, which provides a 20% rebate upon approval and then a 20% reduced rate on their bill going forward. An additional 4 residents qualified for this program since last year, bringing the total to 276 participants. People who want to apply for the cost share program or recertify can do so at cupertino.org/watercostshare. Next slide. This annual process concerns only budget and activities related to Fund 230 Environmental Management Clean Creek Storm Drain, which is for activities related to operating the non-point source pollution program. It is distinct from Fund 215 Storm Drain AB 1600, which is revenue from development impact fees for impacts to the storm drainage system and ongoing maintenance and improvements necessary to ensure proper drainage from development projects. It is also distinct from Fund 210 Storm Drain Improvement, which is for the construction and maintenance of storm drain facilities through projects funded by the Capital Reserve. Next slide. The non-point source program and storm drain maintenance revenues and expenses are audited annually during the regular external audit. Additionally, we worked with finance staff to establish an agreed-upon procedures audit by calendar year of expenses and revenues. The AUP audits, as they're called, for calendar years 2022 and 2023 are still being finalized, but they will be made publicly available, and no exceptions or concerns have been noted at this point by the auditors. The 1992 fee, thank you, Kirsten. The 1992 fee has no mechanism for increase, so it will remain the same. The 2019 clean water and storm protection fee does allow for an annual increase up to CPI with a maximum of 3%. We recommend an increase of 2.62%, which matches CPI to the 2019 fee for 24-25. Increasing this fee would increase revenue by a bit over $29,000 for the coming fiscal year, which is about $1.20 per year additional for an average single-family home parcel. Next slide. So tonight's recommended actions are to renew the 1992 fee with no increase and renew the 2019 fee with a 2.62% increase. The next slide. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that council or the public may have.
Thank you for that report. Let's bring it back to council for questions regarding the staff report that we just heard. We can take 3 minutes each. And Councilmember Moore, we'll start with you.
All right. Thank you for the report and for the information about the funds 230, 215, and 210. With regards to the emergency repair that was done on Stevens Creek Boulevard, would you happen to know which one of those funds that the repair came from?
It was not out of 230.
That means it was obviously one of the other two. I'm pretty sure it was 215, though.
That's it. Thank you.
I had a question. So there is no mechanism to enable an increase in the 1992 storm drain
Correct.
fees. So with the result that there's the general fund impact to this keeps growing every year.
That was the reason for pursuing the additional fee in 2019. And we didn't want to jeopardize that 1992 fee by trying to raise it or change it. So we just pursued a totally separate one, which is why there are two.
I understand, but we still don't have a mechanism for the 1992 straw.
Correct.
And is that how is that peculiar to us, to our city, or is this how it works with other cities?
I don't know. I'd have to find out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Moore?
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. And through the mayor, I have a question for the attorney on this. And I can't remember the legislation that impacts it, but I believe that the 1992 fee cannot be increased because it perhaps would need a 2/3 vote. I'm not sure.
Yeah, generally the fees would require a vote unless there is an ability to automatically increase the fees based on an inflation index. As Ursula explained, we can do that with the 2019 fee, but not with the 1992 fee because of the way that the legislation that was approved by voters was structured.
Thank you.
Councilmember Chow?
Just curious whether how much of the entire actual cost of storm drain repair is covered by the fee, and how much we are still subsidizing from general fund.
So by repair, do you mean the entire non-point source pollution prevention program as a whole, or for a specific repair?
I don't know. All the, I guess, the program, but also any other repairs the city or maintenance the city has to do to upkeep our storm drain.
The program, as is described in the staff report, the program is running a bit under revenue, so it comes in a little short of what the revenue brings in, and that's for all of the program activities: staffing, education, outreach, permit compliance, some repair. This outfall maintenance, outfall assessment project came out of this fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do go to the general fund we have the potential to go to the general fund for the shortage.
Do you have some idea how much is it?
Let me take a stab at it. I think what Ursula is talking about is the program itself. So the program is not fully funded. We're taking some fees from the 1992 in addition to the 2019 fees. But even with that, we're still subsidizing from the general fund. If I understand Councilmember Chow's original question, I think what you're asking also relates to potentially CIP that has to do with the storm drain infrastructure, which we don't have a number at this moment. We can certainly come back, but there are two separate activities, if you will.
Okay. So for this particular program, I see in the staff report that remaining.
I think the staff report calls out how much has been subsidized for this program only by the
So it's
by the general
only
fund.
for this program.
Correct.
And then the maintenance repair is a separate item.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Fruin? Oh, okay. Okay, I see no other questions. Okay, so let's go to public comment. Are there any cards, Madam City Clerk?
Mayor, I see no hands raised requesting to speak virtually, nor do I see any speaker cards requesting to speak in person.
Okay, so let's bring it back to council, and Councilmember Moore, you have a comment?
I was going to make the motion that we approve the recommended action to adopt resolution number 24-052, approving the renewal and collection of the 1992 storm drain fee with no increase in rates for FY 24-25, and 2, resolution number 24-053, attachment B, approving the renewal and collection of the 2019 clean water and storm protection fee with a 2.62% increase in rates for fiscal year 24-25.
Okay, is there a second?
So I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second, and Madam City Clerk.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Let me make sure that Councilmember Way doesn't have. Councilmember Wake, if you can hear me, Do you have any
Yes.
comments? Do you have any comments on
No,
that?
no, no, I'm fine.
Okay, great. Okay, so, hang on, Vice Mayor Fruin, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just had a quick comment to thank you for making it somewhat more granular. Effectively, the same sort of fee enactment in San Jose is simply not as granular as this. In other words, they charge all single-family residences the same rate, as opposed to doing it by the size of the property or the structure attached to it. So I appreciate that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's vote. And Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Chow?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Wei?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Fruin?
Aye.
Mayor Mohan?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 14, which is the budget. So the subject is consider the recommended operating and capital improvement program budgets for fiscal year 24-25, adoption of the operating and capital improvement program budgets for FY 2024-25, and establishment of the appropriation limit and related actions.
Mayor?
Staff, yes, please.
Thank
Madam
you.
City Manager.
While the budget team is queuing up the presentation, I just want to take a moment to thank council and also members of the community for accompanying us the past year to get to this point. In my mind, this is after a big crescendo and coming up to the finale. I really want to give a shout out to council for the endless rounds of prep session, questions and answers, staff reports, you name it, and also just the efforts that budget team has gone through. I believe that we have done our best to come to you with the proposed budget that is being presented to you today, especially after a very aggressive timeline that we just came to you 2 weeks ago with the study session. And thank you for the trust in our work, and come back to you today, and hoping that we will walk away with the final budget. As the consultant kind of mentioned that during the study session, this is a planning forecast tool. It's also being done at a moment of time. We do anticipate this document to be modified, and I believe Christina said it the best. The moment it's being printed, it's already outdated. But we will do our best to bring council up to speed on where we are. And that said, I can see the budget team has already set up and ready. I think I stalled enough time for you to get the presentation. So we don't want to labor you with a long presentation today, given that we just went through that 2 weeks ago, but more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you. Go for it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Thank you for joining us today as we present the fiscal year 2024-25 proposed budget. Since we recently presented the budget 2 weeks ago, this presentation will be brief. In this presentation, we'll discuss the changes to the budget since it was printed on May 1st, and we'll also be providing some additional information based on council questions that we received during prep sessions this week, and we'll also outline the next steps in the budget cycle. This is the roadmap to budget adoption. You can see that we started meeting with council in October. We've met at least once per month, and I'll touch on a few meetings that had an impact on the proposed budget, including in October when council established a committed reserve and also approved new labor contracts. In January, council first looked at the service level reductions. In February, we also had the fee study, revenue tax measures. In March, CIP. In April, we had the city work program, finalization of the service level reductions. And finally, in May, we had the proposed budget, which was first presented to you. And then finally, you can see today, we're presenting the proposed budget for adoption. And so the budget that you see today incorporates feedback from council throughout all of those meetings. So now let's highlight the changes that have occurred since the proposed budget was printed. And so since it was printed, you can see we have a $102,805 increase in expenditures, and these were the changes that we also outlined on a slide in May. So this lists all the changes in detail. I won't go into detail since we discussed this in May. And this is an overview of the proposed budget incorporating all those changes. So we can see that with the general fund, we have $89.8 million in revenues, as well as expenditures of $90.0 million. This results in a slight deficit of $200,000. When we look at all funds, revenues are $139.3 million, expenditures are $146.6 million, with a deficit of 7.3 million, and that is due to the use of fund balance from the capital reserve as well as enterprise and internal service funds. Now I'll be providing additional information based on questions that we received during our prep sessions with council. One of the questions we received was about the cost allocation plan, also known as CAP. And so the purpose of a cost allocation plan is to distribute indirect costs among different parts of the organization so that each department and program bears its appropriate share of these costs. And these are generally costs that are provided to city departments, for example, things like IT, human resources, accounting, legal services. And so there's no net impact on the city. As you can see, the revenues and expenditures balance each other out. Essentially, departments that benefit from these services, they are covering the expenses, while the departments that provide those services receive revenues. And you can see some of the departments that receive more revenues. These are departments like the city manager's office, the city attorney's office, IT, accounting, finance, and human resources. And then you can see the expenses are distributed citywide, with some of the larger departments like Parks and Recreation and Public Works paying more of the cost. Another question that we received was about special projects and carryovers. So this slide illustrates an example of what happens if a project is not complete at the end of the year. And so I've also linked to an OpenGov view, as you can be, if you click on this, you can see all the special projects and you can look at the amended budgets over time. So as an example, let's pick the Community Shuttle Pilot Program. So you can see in fiscal year 22-23, at third quarter amended budget, the budget was $836,000. And you can see that they actually spent most of the budget that year, but there was $10,000 that wasn't spent. And so as part of that carryover process, at the end of the year, that $10,000 is removed from the budget in 22-23 and then added to the budget in 23-24. And you can see that with the red arrow. And now you can see that in 23-24, the amended budget at Q1 is now $10,000. So using that unspent funds from the previous year. And now in terms of next steps. So on May 21st, you first heard our proposed budget. Then today, you're hearing updates to the proposed budget, and potentially we'll be voting to adopt the budget tonight. And then also, we'll also be presenting updates on the budget at least quarterly. So for example, the first quarter financial report will be going to council in November 2024. And then in 2025, you'll also be seeing the mid-year and third quarter updates. That concludes our presentation, and we're available to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, council members, if we have questions for Director Alfaro and Thomas, this is the time to do it. 3 minutes per council member to ask questions of staff, please. I don't see any lights. Are we just slow to react? Okay, no questions from council. Any public comments on the budget?
Mayor, I see no hands raised virtually, and I have no speaker cards to requesting to speak in person.
Okay. All right, let's bring
Actually,
it back.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I see one hand raised virtually now.
Okay.
Yes, San R. Welcome, San.
Evening, City Council and Mayor Sheila. I wish to just recap some of the resident feedback that you have heard through this process that unfortunately has fallen on deaf ears to this council majority that has a 100% track record of endorsing the recommendations of city staff. Consistently through this process, we have seen that residents have borne the brunt of the impact of this budget process and the catch up on the deficit. The increases are disproportionate to residents versus commercial and multifamily properties. We see that once again today with animal services, and we see that once again with other programs where residents continue to see a nickeling and diming of taxes that are coming their way. along the way, we also see that the cost of administration has grown unsustainably high. The comparisons that the budget shows in the staff report are year over year. The comparison should really be to a 5-year period prior to COVID. And if you look at the comparisons prior to COVID, the employee costs have gone up significantly over a 5-year period. And not enough has been done to reduce employee costs. The small cuts that were made to unfilled recs do not represent the kind of change you need for fiscal restraint. On the one hand, you continue to add back items that increase costs. As an example, animal services and added 62,000 cost just this year alone, and then rises 14,000 every year. In the meantime, we are seeing no change in staffing, and we are seeing no change in contractor services. Contract services has gone up by almost 8 million. And I ask you to study the year-over-year increase, but also the 5-year increase, and really cut down expenses on employee spend and contract services. The biggest gain for the city comes from employee and contract services. Specifically, I would like to draw your attention to administration. We have 3 city managers now, we have multiple directors, assistant directors, and we need to reduce our spend on not the ground workers that really serve the city, but on administration. We are too top heavy and we cannot afford it. If you look at the staff report and look at the operating budget surplus or deficit, that chart is a scary chart. When we start contributing back transfers to capital reserve, the deficit starts to increase exponentially. There is no explanation for how this budget brings us back to a balanced budget as we start adding back transfers to capital reserves. You're pushing.
Thank you, San. That is your time. And there is one additional hand raised. Louise Sadati. Welcome, Louise. Louise, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, I know how difficult this whole budget process was and all the many meetings that we had, and that it's gone through all the different departments, and everybody had to, in each department had to prioritize and come to select the items that they need to decrease. And I just really appreciate how much work was done to come to a holistic budget, given the size of the budget deficit we had to overcome. They really came together, took the input from the residents, all the residents, not just the 3 residents that keep saying they represent all the residents, but truly all the residents in Cupertino, and to prioritize critical services and not overreaching. I know it's very easy for some people who seemingly the only thing they ever talk about is negative comments about city staff and the present majority council, and high praises for the previous council. But the previous council had issues. They led to the empty 52-acre lot and our loss of hundreds of millions of dollars when they repealed the specific plan.
Excuse me,
I
Louise?
just want to,
Excuse me?
the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Louise?
Yes.
If you could just restrict your comments to the budget, which is the item that's under discussion.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so I just want to thank the city staff and the city council for all that they have done to come up with this budget. And there's some people that will never be happy, no matter what the city staff does. But I do know that there's, referring to the previous speaker that was talking about decreasing staff, The city is now operating with with having less staff and not replacing full-time positions. So kudos to you for all that you have done. And we only have one city manager. We have a deputy and an assistant, but we have only one city manager. So the previous speaker misspoke. But thank you for all that you do for the limited staff, time, and constraints that you do have.
Thank you, Louise. That is your time. Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item.
Okay. All right, so let's bring it back to council. I'm looking for a motion at this point. Councilmember Chow, are you going to make a motion?
No, I do have some question I can ask later. Anyone wants to make a motion?
Go ahead and make your comment. You have 3 minutes.
So I am sharing my screen. This is from the work program that it's updated for the adopted work program under the category on, I think I had a question last time about what funding, some of the added funding. Under the new category, there is a project with previously allocated funds. Under this category, there is electrification study with 50K allocated, and active transportation plan with 330K allocated from TDA. As far as I know, these two were proposed by Commission in March. So I am wondering, when did the council allocate funding previously to electrification study after March? And when did the council allocate the TDA to active transportation plan? When was that done? If that hasn't been done, these two shouldn't be classified as previously allocated project. Could you clarify?
Give us a moment. We're trying to pull up that information now.
So these are new questions to us. If you can give us a moment to verify it and come back. Are there any other questions?
I'll reserve my time for others. Thank you.
So, while the team is working on it, I understand that we went ahead and update the city work program per the study session instruction, and we went ahead and allocated these funding. But if Councilmember Chow is looking for a date when council made the funding, it may take the budget team a little bit, and we'll come back to that answer.
I think I asked this question last time already, that I don't think these two are new are old programs. Somehow they are classified as previously allocated or what. They were proposed in March, and I never heard of that before March. So thank you.
I can respond to your question about the TDA funds. So that is an item that is expected to go to council on June 18th. And I think what the note is saying, no additional funds, is saying that the city has offsetting revenues from the TDA funds. And so Public Works will be bringing an item in June to discuss.
But the council still has a discretion to allocate this fund to either this active transportation plan or any other project, right?
Yes.
And that hasn't been done. And this is a new item for this new budget. So I want to clarify that we have accurate information for this budget, that these two projects are new with that would require new allocation for this budget. Thank you.
So we can have the Deputy City Manager, Tina Kapoor, answering some of these questions. I understand that there are funding allocated because, like Thomas said, for the electrification and also active transportation, there are grants available that are applicable for the work program. But go ahead, Tina.
Thank you, City Manager Wu. Good evening, Council, Mayor, and Council. So the adopted budget city work program that you're looking at, Thomas, the sheet that we were looking, if you want to pull that up. So the projects on this list, where it says allocated, this funding was allocated through last year's budget process.
So if you look at the city work program on the city's website, they list new projects, but it's not through the budget process. If you're looking through the spreadsheet that Thomas is going to share in a second, which is part of the budget document, that's what you should refer to in order to see what was allocated through last year's budget process.
So are you saying last year we allocated the 50,000 for electrification study?
Correct, through the budget process, last year's budget process.
But this thing was just proposed by Sustainability Commission in March. If it was in the budget, why did they have to propose it?
So the projects can be proposed on the city work program, but the council has an opportunity, again, through tonight's conversation and the conversations you've had in the past to say these can move forward as city work program projects.
But the allocation was made in this last year's budget?
Through the budget process, correct.
I think there's some confusion. If this is the only question, if we can take maybe a 5-minute recess, we're just learning the question as we speak. I think the budget team is actively looking for an answer. If I can have a conversation with Tina, but if there are other questions that I can also entertain during the recess.
Councilmember Moore, you had a question?
Thank you. Really pretty simple question. The unassigned fund balance of 22.8 million, I am curious how this number is determined, and I know that you already have a chart showing when you plan to kind of have that zeroed out. So if you could provide that after the break. And for some reason, I'm unable to locate this year's festival fee waivers. I'm not sure why I can't find it, but if you could point me to it, that would help.
So the festival and fee waivers, that was part of the PowerPoint presentation.
But do we have it in hard copy, like a PDF of it? It's not within the proposed budget. I couldn't locate it. That doesn't mean it's not there.
So yes, that information came after the proposed budget was printed. So it was included as part of your supplemental packets from the prep sessions in May, and then also included in the PowerPoint presentation that you saw in May. But it will be included when the budget is printed.
The May 21st?
Yes.
May 21st. Okay. So for some reason, when I was looking through there, I could not find it, but I'll go hunt again, and we've got a little break. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Should we take a 5-minute break?
Before we take a break, are there any other questions, Councilmember Chow, or other council members that we can entertain?
If I can ask, I think in the past, usually with budget adoption, we also have the list of organizations we are funding through the community grant funding that Parks and Rec Commission recommend. I don't see that in...
It's in the budget. Thomas, can you find the budget?
There is usually another document that's in the attachment.
I think we showed that during the prep session. If you can bring it up.
It's also in the staff report as well.
It's also in the staff report, so we can bring that
There
page
is usually like a ranking the Parks and Rec Commission use to rank the organizations in order to make their recommendation.
I believe we also attached the Parks and Rec staff report to the staff report. But Thomas, why don't you pull up the page?
Okay.
Pamela, did you want to take a recess, or we just?
I'm waiting for more questions.
Okay.
In case there are any more. Any more questions? No.
Councilmember Wade, do you have any questions?
No, we have gone through the budget up and down, sideways, and all these questions actually were in the briefing and the report. So no, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chow, you
just to
have more
clarify,
questions?
the documents were modified since last study session. That's why I wasn't expecting it to be modified, so I didn't really double check.
It wasn't modified. It wasn't modified. But here's the chart. Here's the chart, but it wasn't modified. So here's the chart for the community grant funding. If there are other questions that you have, more than happy to entertain. If not, if we can take maybe a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back with the questions on the city work program.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you.
Good? Okay, let's take a short break. And it's 8:49. Let's be back by 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to take a moment to regroup. And I know there were two sets of questions. One had to do with the city work program, so Assistant City Manager Matt Morley will address those. And I know there was also a question from Councilmember Moore on the unassigned fund balance. The budget team will also address that after Matt's response. So go for it.
Thank you. So specific to the work program, as you know, the work program is a 2-year program. In the first year of the last series of programs, we allocated $50,000 for the electrification study, but we programmed the project in the second year. The reason we did that was for staffing, to allow staffing to complete the project. So although the $50,000 was allocated in the first year, the project wasn't keyed in to start until the second year. So that's how that one worked out. The dollars were set aside and they were there and ready for use. With regard to
active transportation
plan, we have put that item forward as a consolidation of multiple projects that were already on the work program, including the bike plan, PED plan, and Vision Zero, amongst others. And so the idea is to do a consolidated active transportation plan that would be moving forward this coming year. And we also have grant funding identified for a significant portion, if not all of that. And that will be coming to council in the coming weeks. So we're asking for it to be included in the work program now. And we'll talk to you probably at the next council meeting about allocating specific funding for it and how the dollars will fund the ATP. So this is really our way of getting it into the work program so that we can have it out there and available for you to see over the course of the next year.
Councilmember Chow?
Can I, so the 300,000 is not in the last year's budget. You are requesting new funding for that, right?
We're not requesting general fund dollars because it has special funds.
It doesn't matter where the funding comes from. It's not allocated. That's my key point.
We're asking.
So the table is a bit misleading because the table is putting this item under previously allocated items.
So the items were identified previously through the work program, as I mentioned, as separate one-off items, and they've been consolidated now into one item. And we're proposing moving that forward with grant dollars.
I prefer that we don't confuse this. This was not in the 2-year program. This was not allocated from last year's budget. So if we are funding, fine. But let's not try to confuse this. Thank you.
Thank you. And then also, just to clarify, I verified with the budget team that we haven't really updated any information in the proposed budget that was printed on May 1st. However, we did update a city work program website for more clarity. So if there are the discrepancy, please let us know.
I just checked my screenshot from last meeting. The PDF for the work program was changed. The categories were changed, and the PDF for the work program today is different from the last meeting. I wasn't expecting that.
That was described in the supplemental. So there's a supplemental attachment that describes the changes to this attachment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And then Thomas, are you going to go over the unassigned fund balance question?
Yes. So Councilmember Moore, I'll pull up the unassigned fund balance table, but I would like to know what questions you had on it.
Oh, pardon. I was just curious how you arrived at the 22.8 million, and because I spotted the decrease, and I'm wondering when you plan on getting to zero on that. And perhaps just for members of the public who may be watching, just a simple definition of what unassigned fund balance is.
Okay, so unassigned fund balance is really fund balance that doesn't have any restrictions on it. So for example, we have a variety of categories of fund balance. For example, committed fund balance includes a sales tax repayment reserve. Restricted fund balance includes our Section 115 pension trust, which is restricted for pension dollars. And so out of our total fund balance, only a small portion is really unrestricted, uncommitted, and available for City Council to program. And that is what unassigned fund balance is. And it really provides a cushion. For example, if we have a year where there's a fiscal deficit, right, then that unassigned fund balance can be used to fund that deficit.
Okay, but
so unassigned fund balance is projected to decrease over the course of the 10-year forecast, and that is because over time, as the city has fiscal deficits, right, those deficits would be funded by unassigned fund balance, and at some point, unassigned fund balance would then become zero when there's once there's a couple of years of deficits.
Okay, thank you. So,
but if you'd like more detail, there's a table that was covered in our May 21st presentation.
Yes, thank you. And through the mayor, I believe I do have some more time. So I did see the festival costs. They are within the May 21st supplemental packet, the PowerPoint presentation. It would be my preference in the future that it would be an attachment within this budget, so we're not hunting back for it. But I do want to make some comments about this. So our festival costs have increased. That we're now at $151,000, and the highest amount is for the Cherry Blossom Festival at 51,000, about 51,700, followed by the Rotary Day and Night Festival at 19,721, Dilly Hot 18,000, and Bhubaneswar Sister City 16,343, and Diwali Festival at 15,880. So that all arrives at a total of 151,000 when you add up. There's the couple smaller festivals which we have, and then additionally we have.
Go ahead for one more minute,
Okay.
Councilmember Ma.
Thank you.
More, and we can all get one additional minute later.
Okay, so we do have 90 minutes allocated for this item, so I don't think we have to exactly rush and finish the budget in 37 minutes. So within our budget, we also have 59,000 budgeted for sister cities. So that brings, going from our 151,000, we then can add the 59,000, and I'm not going to count this, but we do have a $52,000 chamber MOU, and we have about 32,500 in grants, and I don't know if that increased, if anyone happens to know if that increased from what we originally allocated. I think there was a possibility that it did. So the point of this being that I want, and I think it would help people to understand this, for people to know how much we do give to the community. We're granting and waiving fees, and for the community to know how much that we are doing there. I think that's important. And I'll leave it for the next round. Thank you.
I had one question. One of your slides showed a $7 million difference between the revenues and the expenditures, right? And so in the final budget, you will just show a line item saying that will be covered by the unassigned funds from this current year, this current fiscal year?
So for the general fund specifically, the deficit is $237,000, and
right.
Yes, that would be covered by unassigned fund balance, and that's one of the reasons why unassigned fund balance is decreasing this year. But in terms of that $7 million, that is mainly due to the capital project funds, right, because we aren't making any transfers from the general fund to the capital reserve. Instead, we're using the capital reserve to fund our capital projects.
Right. So the final budget will show a page where there's a balanced budget.
Yes,
that
balance
is easily
using
displayed.
reserves and unassigned fund balance.
No. Oh, thank you. Councilmember Chow?
I just pulled up the approved city work program from last year. There is no electrification study in that 2-year work program we adopted. So I'm feeling dizzy because I'm getting answers that I couldn't verify. I could take the answer after the meeting. If this electrification was allocated from last year's budget, please show me where in the budget we do have it. And also the 330,000 for the active bike transportation, it wasn't allocated. Last year, it wasn't. The Vision Zero last year is a plan that will be finished today. I mean, not next month, that we will have a plan. So if it's a new project, let's just call it a new broad project. That's not confuse the issue. And the transportation mitigation fee, should that be applied to backpace project? That's a different issue. So if the council hasn't approved that, don't call that previously allocated. Otherwise, it feels very dizzying when we use different terms. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Fruit?
Yeah, I'll just point out that I happen to be looking at the adopted fiscal year 22-23 city work program. Line 21 says electrification study. It's in the minutes from our work program meeting, so I'm not quite sure why it is that Councilmember Chow is having difficulty finding this information.
Okay, any other comments? I am not seeing any. Oh, Councilmember Chow? Oh, it's Councilmember Wei, sorry.
Mayor Mohan, sorry, I think I raised my hand, you couldn't see it.
Oh.
So I really want to follow with Councilmember Moore's comment that we do a lot for our communities. Yes, we do, and we should. The Sister Cities program, that's being asked, grilled, answered, back and forth, and the council decided to support it. The festival fee waivers, that's being talked about no more than once, and the council decided to support it. So I do believe that we do a lot for the community, and we should. So I'm glad Councilmember Moore emphasized that we need to let the community members know we do a lot for them. The festivals are well award-winning festivals, especially the Cherry Blossom Festival. Many, many people go visit, and so that's not something we want to charge them so that they would not do it. And also, I want to emphasize, some of them I don't consider there are profits, because if they don't host their festivals, we're not going to get rental fees from Memorial Park. So I want to make sure that, yes, we are supporting all these community programs, and that's being approved by this council, by the previous council. So I just want to make sure that we don't start to repeat it over and over again. And as to Councilmember Chow's questions, I do believe that we talk about it in May too. So I just want to make sure that the staff's answers in the packages are being taken notes so that we don't coming back and forth. This budget is a budget. It is not it's going to adjust. So I do believe our staff's done yeoman's job to make sure that we have a balanced budget. We have cut where we need to cut. We don't cut where we don't need to cut. And I really want to say, let's support it so that we can move forward with first quarter and do adjustments. Second quarter, third quarter, we might bring some of the projects back. We don't know if we have the time and money. So I'm hoping that we appreciate, community members and council members appreciate our staff's work. Back and forth, we have study sessions, and I believe Councilmember Moore might have taken 2 study sessions. So our staff want to answer our questions, and I want to commend our staff for doing that. And I just read the minutes. We have 3 study sessions coming up with staff briefing for each one of us. So I want to really say we've done this budget back and forth over and over again, and we still have questions, fine. Email to city staff and get answers, including our community members. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wei. Any other comments? I think we are ready for a motion. Councilmember Moore, you had one comment?
Yes. So with regards to...
Yeah, just a minute, please.
Okay, thank you. With regards to economic development, we've allocated $541,000 to that, and we also have the $52,000 MOU with the chamber with certain deliverables associated with that contract. Am I to add those two parts together, and so we're around 590, and then we'll be having some other additional events like Business Saturday type things. So is that the entirety of that budget? And I'm wondering what we are going to have is for metrics to see if it's succeeding for economic development.
So am I understanding your question to say, is that the total budget for economic development, or is it a total budget for chamber?
For economic development.
Okay. So there's a proposed budget for the Economic Development Division. I'm sure Daniel Degu has done a great job to keep up the division. It is a one-man shop, and therefore relying on the Chamber of Commerce to help us. But the contract with the Chamber is not to only promote economic development. There's other items that the Chamber is working on. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to piece out the $52,000 contract added to the economic development. So I don't have a total dollar, but we definitely have the proposed budget for that division in the budget book.
Okay, thank you. I'm just noticing that economic development is increasing, and so my concern for, with regards to our fiduciary duty is, are we making sure that we're getting good return on our money, and that we're seeing some improvements throughout the city with regards to new businesses coming in and new tax revenue, and so that otherwise it's almost $600,000 and
understood. Well, more than happy to share the Business Connect and also more accomplishment that the Economic Development Division is working on. Let us know if there are a particular area that you're interested in.
Just basically that we want economic development to be bringing in more than the cost to be providing those services.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Also, with the economic development budget, yes, as you mentioned, it was $541,000, and that $52,000 chamber contract is included in that budget. And I would also add that a significant portion of their budget, currently $173,000, is actually due to cost allocation. And so if we look at the budget, we have about $300,000 for compensation for one full-time staff as well as part-time, materials $17,000, and then $56,000 for contract services, and that's pretty much the entirety of the budget. So only $340-something thousand.
Okay, thank you. But I do believe if you have cost allocation, my understanding to that budget item, that it doesn't. It's not nothing. You do need to consider it as that is a cost to the city to be running that. And I do want to thank you for the budget process assistance going through the roadmap and the sessions for the members of the public and myself to understand some of the more granular bits to the budgeting process to follow along with that. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other comments, so let's go with the motion. Vice Mayor Fruin.
Yeah, no, I'll reiterate my motions. I'm sorry, my commentary from the 21st, which is a generalized thank you. We've had so many touch points with the public on this topic. It was a huge topic. You had an incredibly large task to try to accomplish. It's really, really hard to seal an enormous deficit in the budget that we have with the expectations that the public has. And because we've had so many touch points, there's a reason why there isn't a sea of people here today as we move toward adoption, right? We've discussed this. I'm going to use a terribly violent analogy. We've all heard the expression of, beating a dead horse. We've beaten this horse into glue. So I think that we should frankly be ready to move. So I will move the staff recommended action.
Councilmember Wei?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Go ahead.
Could we include restore the citizens of Cupertino in the organization chart, even though I think that our citizens want us to see them as a valued member as part of the budget, even though this might just be symbolic in nature. I think it would be a nice gesture for the council to have, to put the citizens of Cupertino on top, because we are supported by their tax dollars and we are elected by them. And then I hope, and not so that, and also that's that's it.
Okay, is there a second?
It's a amendment.
It's a friendly amendment. Vice Mayor Fruin?
I'd be willing to accept the amendment, but it has to be accepted as well by the seconder.
Absolutely. I just want to say the citizens are always our top boss, because not just because they pay taxes, it's because we serve them. And I can see this is a budget organization. If we do a city organization, of course our citizens are always on top. But do we want to put a budget organization as a citizens? I'm not so sure. But if it makes everybody happy, I would second that. I would accept the friendly amendment.
Okay. All right. So comments.
Can
Councilmember
I make
Moore.
another friendly amendment?
Councilmember Moore, did you have a comment on the first friendly amendment?
I definitely agree with that first friendly amendment. I do want to make a statement to close out for myself for the evening on this item. I do have continuing concerns on contingencies, the personnel total, contract services, community benefits, increasing the general fund other uses category. And I have requested an investment analyst that they could potentially be hired to help with deciding where our funds should be invested, given my earlier inquiry about keeping $48 million in a non-interest bearing checking account that could have generated over $2 million of interest over the past year. We have made many sacrifices this year, including the 4th of July festival, and we are now being charged with the credit card fees. I am, however, very happy about the ongoing staffing improvements in finance with the hiring of the manager, the procurement officer, and the budget officer. I think it's made a great improvement, great deal of work has been done in those areas, along with continuing the support of having the consultant Moss Adams and bringing Baker Tilly in. I think that was a really smart addition to have the forecasting discussion that we had. We've had the great fortune of having a wonderfully successful company share our city, but we have also had a serious economic jolt, as we all know, which gave rise to many suggestions, and I thought the roadmap was really smart, and as it unfolded, really well done, and it kept us on track in knowing exactly what was going to happen next. So there were no surprises. So I'm very happy with the changes that have happened. I think it's going to continue to be better and more transparent, and I love that the public got to get their questions answered and that you're providing the education. So with that, thank you very much for getting us all through this process. Really, job well done.
Okay, Councilmember Chow, one last comment, please.
So the
one
other
minute.
friendly amendment is, can we put the city treasurer position as parentheses next to administrative service director, which is what it should be? And because we used to have market, and that way it's more clear. It's not really a position. I don't think it should be a separate box, but per municipal code, that's director of administrative service, so that's just market. Would that be acceptable?
Vice Mayor Fruin?
So I'm not going to micromanage this document. I understand the desire to have, the citizens of Cupertino at the top. That makes sense to me. but I'm not going to request that we micromanage the rest of it. So I think that the city manager has heard what you've said, and city staff have heard what you said, and that they can make appropriate changes.
Okay. Then the last amendment I'd like to request is to revise, correct adopted the PDF for the adopted work program to put active transportation under the second category that's require additional funding, because this council has not really voted to fund, and whether the funding should come from the TDA or not is in an upcoming agenda, so that should come next. And so this can we just correct that? This is not currently funded.
Vice Mayor Fruin.
So, I'm not interested in overly micromanaging the document. What I would be willing to accept as an amendment would be authorization to staff to make various textual changes that are consistent with our discussion today.
Okay, thank you for that. So would the seconder agree with that?
I want to ask the staff, this is a budget. So on when the first amendment, first quarter, a lot of things it says, right now we approve it's going to be different already. Does that really make any difference that we instruct the staff to do it now? I really believe this is a fluid document. We talk about this back and forth. I am a little unwilling to micromanage this and let the staff heard us, and then let them come back with a first quarter adjustment and put the inputs. Things could change by then. I'm more inclined not to accept it.
Okay. Yeah, so my comment is we've gone through the city work program several times during the course of the year. And if there are some minor tweaks that need to be made, that could be made without going through a formal motion and so on. And the active transportation plan as well as the electrification study, I remember them well from the last time we discussed them. I don't see any critical need to change any of this for now, because given the understanding that if anything changes, and these are all estimates on the budgets are all estimates, if things change, if they increase, the expectation is that the staff will come back and inform us about it. So I am not looking to change the city work program as it is laid out currently. Having said that, where are we with all the different motions there? There is a motion.
So Chow's first friendly amendment was accepted by both the mover and the seconder. Chow's second friendly amendment was declined by the mover, and Chow's third friendly amendment was declined by the mover and replaced with a modified friendly amendment, but the modified friendly amendment was declined by the seconder. So in essence, Chow's initial first friendly amendment is included with the motion, the current motion.
Okay, and we have a second for the first friendly motion.
Correct.
Right, so let's go ahead and vote. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Chow?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Wei?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Fruin?
Aye.
Mayor Mohan?
Aye.
The amended motion carries unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you very much to the staff. Thank you, Christina, Thomas. I specifically wanted to do a shout out to Matt Morley. Are you still here?
For much longer.
Is this the last we'll see of you?
Which is the reason why we asked him to answer that question. Got to get full use out of him.
Good idea. But thank you for your services, Matt. And since you will be in our neighboring city, we hope to run into you at various events. And feel free to come and talk to us at council anytime. we do, but you were integral to the budget item, so I wanted to make sure you were recognized. We are moving to the last item, which is an item pulled from the consent calendar, item number 7, which is the law enforcement contract extension with the County of Santa Clara Sheriff's Office. And Councilmember Moore, you pulled the item. And if you want to go ahead, state your reasons, and we'll just go ahead with you asking questions of the sheriff's, the captain.
I will do that. Good evening, Captain Valenzuela and Tina Kapoor. Okay, so the reason I pulled it was just for transparency's sake, to discuss or mention that we have had a donation from Apple starting in 2018, and I have had a lingering question about what is the appropriate way to designate this this donation, and there has been some concern that if our actual contract had decreased a little bit and that we still kept that amount from Apple, for the 2 deputies, that perhaps the remaining part of the city wouldn't be receiving the same level of service, and so there's just that issue. So I wanted to bring that up, and that's all, just for transparency's sake.
And thank you, Councilmember Moore, for clarifying your question. So before Captain Venezuela go into the detail, and I just kind of wanted to take a couple steps back. So this item was brought to Council last fall for a 5-year extension. Council has approved the extension. However, there was some complication with the county, and therefore we're coming back to the Council for a shorter extension to bring the 5 years back to 2 year. Essentially, there's no change to the current contract. We're not proposing, and the county is not proposing any revision to the contract at this moment, but we'll went ahead and ask the captain to be available to answer any questions. And Captain, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the overview or the statement, the high-level statement to Councilmember Moore questions, that we have not seen a decrease of the sheriff's activity for other areas of the city other than Apple, because the Apple donation money is using up the sheriff's resource. The Apple donation stays the same, and then that provides additional services to the city.
That's correct. So we, first of all, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. So that's correct. The funding and anything like that for the designated deputies that work that particular beat is not being modified at all. Over the last couple of years, we decided to take a look at, the city decided to take a look at other aspects like traffic and investigative hours, which they reduced because of for the last couple of years, we hadn't used those banks up all the way. So those were the modifications that were made for this contract.
Okay, thank you.
All right, okay. So that was it. Oh, there are public comments. Do we have? Yeah.
Yes, Mayor, I see one hand raised virtually by Rhoda Fry. Okay. Did you submit a speaker card?
Will sign one. I'm still, as usual, a little bit confused about what we're doing with consent calendar, so just bear with me, please. Can I speak now on this item? And I will fill the card out after.
Ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay,
3 minutes.
Believe me, it's been a year, and I still get confused on what we do with consent calendar. Anyway, hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin, and I think that our law enforcement does a wonderful job. If anything, we need to hire more law enforcement. Cupertino does not have its own police department as other cities do, but I grew up with the sheriff's department because I grew up in a county pocket. That pocket is now annexed to another city, which has its own police department. But in fact, my husband's was under the sheriff's department in West San Jose. They are now in Cupertino. I believe in the Sheriff's Department. I think that there has been such an increase in crime. I will tell you now, there have been shootings on Highway 101, Highway 17, 17 North going up to Oakland. It is terrifying to drive on the freeways. And we have many freeways that go in and out of Cupertino. We were in Virginia last week on a family vacation. I went to my mother's the day before Memorial Day to check on her. When I came off of 17 on Sunday, coming home at 4 p.m., there was a gentleman in a truck weaving. I got down to Highway 85. I was concerned because this man had been behind me, beside me. He couldn't figure out what he was doing. Right as we turned onto 85, there was a motorcycle policeman, and he pulled him over. I cannot begin to say how many lives they probably saved because that gentleman was proceeding north on Highway 85. He may have hit 280 at some point. Everywhere on 17, they had patrolmen. And I will tell you, I was scared to death about 3 weeks ago because I had gotten off of 17 northbound, got on Highway 1, and I felt a ping on my car windshield. I didn't know what it was. Later on that afternoon, I heard that about 45 minutes later, there had been shootings, freeway shootings down by Watsonville. I don't know what that was that hit my window. It could have been a rock. But this is what is going on. There was an actor killed in Southern California last weekend because he was in the middle of someone trying to steal a catalytic converter, I believe, from under a car. The gentleman shot this person. He was a well-known actor. I think we need to commend our law enforcement, step it up, and hire more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And we have two hands raised virtually, Mayor. Rhoda Fry and San R. Welcome, Rhoda.
Okay, 3 minutes each, please.
Okay.
I wrote, my comments are, should have my written comments. I'm going to read them briefly. I would like to remind you that Assistant City Manager Matt Morley said that the sheriff contract with respect to the Apple agreement would be amended. And he said that in a council meeting, and it was in Community Hall. And I was hoping to find the clip today, but I didn't have the time. We are now in the process of amending the sheriff contract. We need to resolve and clean up the Apple issue. I also want to echo the comments of Councilmember Moore, who has brought this up several times, and we got to get this resolved. As you may know, Apple has an unusual agreement with Cupertino and the county sheriff. It's similar to the controversial agreement that City of Menlo Park has with Facebook. And it was even mentioned in the news with the, right next to the concealed gun permit issue. In any event, at this point, Apple is now, quote unquote, donating $1 million toward sheriff support for its neighborhood. And I don't like how it's showing up in the budget. And I think that the contract is messy. And also, there's a question of fairness because we have been underspending our sheriff hours. Is this because the sheriff's department is unable to allocate enough hours? If this is the case, then is it fair to the community that Apple is carving out its own hours? We all need to have our fair share. The other thing is, I haven't seen the Foothill Patrol car in years, and that's in the contract. So I want to make sure that our allocations make sense. And then we get into the investigative hours. So you have the contracts from Saratoga, and we have a lot more investigative hours per capita than our neighboring cities. And to me, that means that it's probably because the businesses are making more use because we're more business heavy than Saratoga and Los Altos Hills. And once again, to me, that means that the businesses that we all love in the city of Cupertino do need to pay their fair share. And so this is another plea. Let's please get everybody on a business license. So The other thing I would like to see, if the Sheriff's Department can make a report, is to see, to get a breakdown of where we're spending our money on the contract, how much of it is coming from residences, how much is coming from businesses, how much of it is coming from other. I do appreciate and love our Sheriff's Department. They're awesome, and let's support them. And also, let's make that contract clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhoda. Next, we have San R. Welcome, San.
Evening, Mayor Sheila and council members. I want to express my fullest support for our law enforcement. This is an item of utmost priority for residents. Public safety and traffic enforcement is critical. Keeping Cupertino safe and keeping Cupertino's roads safe is critical for us. I don't understand the desire to go after Apple repeatedly, be it this item or other items. I think we need to make it smooth and efficient to work with Apple. And I would request our council members to leave Apple alone. If they have to fund via some means to get additional law enforcement coverage that is for the good of the public. I was fortunate to lead a sister city student delegation to the Apple store in Cupertino, and we had over 20 members of the delegate from overseas that were in the store, and I read the following week that there was a burglary in that store. I would hate to imagine what would have happened if we were hosting an overseas sister city delegation and showing them the pride of our city, and we had burglars running through the store. So if Apple needs additional law enforcement, that is for our own good, and let us make sure that we do not come in the way of law enforcement doing their job. If anything, I would like to request that law enforcement please apply more deputies for traffic enforcement. We are having major issues of speeding, red light violations, stop sign violation, and illegal U-turns, and particularly speeding in the areas of Stevens Creek, Piazza, and Foothill Boulevard. We are aware of the unfortunate fatality on Foothill Boulevard. I haven't seen any deputies patrolling Foothill Boulevard since that incident. I haven't seen any deputies patrolling McClellan in the time since that incident. So we just need to make sure that we are requesting for more traffic enforcement in the areas where our residents see out-of-town traffic coming through the city, or see, contractors driving through the city where there's a tendency to speed. And Foothill is subject to that. So is Piazza, so is Stevens Creek. Please apply more traffic enforcement there. Please redirect our law enforcement dollars to ensure that Cupertino's roads are safe. I wish to bring to your attention that just last night, we had a resident on Scenic Boulevard shocked out of her wits because there was a van literally aiming at her and screaming, "Run her down." And there's a report of that on Nextdoor. And we need to be safe. We can't have these situations, and we appreciate everything our law enforcement does, and we need to fully support them, fund them more, and this is not an area that we should be making cuts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, San. Mayor, no additional speakers for this item.
Okay. Okay, let's bring it back to council, and Councilmember Chow, you had a comment?
Question. So I think two members of the public brought up the patrol car for Foothill. So could maybe the sheriff answer that?
Yes, we still have essentially a commercial enforcement deputy assigned a patrol car that is one of the primary functions is commercial enforcement. So the position hasn't gone away. We still have it staffed currently.
I think the question was there were patrol car on the Foothill, I think Rhoda mentioned it's in the contract, but she hasn't seen them. Maybe she just hasn't seen them, but then they are out there.
They are out there. It's just, we call it the commercial enforcement deputy. Their focus is on Foothill because of all the big trucks that run over Foothill that go on 280. It is a traffic trained deputy that's in a patrol car who is also trained on big rig and a large vehicle enforcement. And they're primarily in the Foothill area, but they also respond to other areas in the city.
Do they also patrol the McClellan Road area?
Yes, their primary function is traffic. However, they are also trained specifically for that corridor there that has a lot of big rig traffic.
Okay. Another question is, we approved the 5-year contract in November. So does the county has any concern with that contract, which is why they want a 2-year contract?
They want us to take a look at the contract again and reevaluate some of the costs and the way we do our billing. So they provided us with a 2-year extension so that we can work out a contract between the city and the sheriff's office for future negotiations and basically being the police department for the city.
Okay, and the next question is really for maybe city attorney. So if the $1 million from Apple is in the form of a donation, that will be exempt from tax for Apple?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the information to answer that question. Yeah.
And then it's donation with the understanding we are providing services. Does that qualify as donation? Would the city violate any law by providing services in the name of donation?
There's no legal issues created for the city. I do not know the tax consequences for Apple.
So we are allowed to accept the donation with the understanding that exchange for services provided by the city.
We are allowed to accept the donation to provide additional service to the city.
Okay. Do we have any agreement with Apple regarding what they expect from the city?
Yeah, I believe we do have a donation agreement.
We do have an agreement. That's okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Wei.
Thank you, Mayor Mohan. I just want to say I echo the public comments. Public safety is very important for our city. This is a contract we talk about. The donation, Apple, this is deja vu. And then I do believe Apple can do whatever they want with that $1 million. It's their business expense or it's their donation. It's really not what our city's concern. And we heard these discussions before. So I'm hoping that this is to rectify the county's 2-year contract. There's no way we're going to change that and go back to the county and negotiate. And this 5-year extension, we talk about it extensively during the meeting when we talk about a 5-year extension. As City Manager Pamela says, nothing has changed. So I'm glad we're asking questions, and I agree with our, everybody that public safety is very important for us. My 2 cents is the county only wants 2 years because they want to negotiate a harder contract, more money. So we have to get ready in 2 years to really pitching more money for our public safety. And that's just my 2 cents. So we're here to approve this. Nothing has changed, just from 5 to 2, because the County Board of Supervisors approved a 2-year contract. I really want to make a motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second to approve the contract as it appears on the agenda. Councilmember Moore, your light is on. 1 minute, please.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I am glad I pulled the item to have the discussion regarding the Apple donation, and I do think it should be brought up each time that we bring up the law enforcement item for individuals to know about it and how they use a donation form, which is typically to donate something for the city's benefit, and the way the form's being used is so that they receive the 2 deputies in exchange for that. So it is a matter of transparency and our appropriate documentation and contracting here. And I want to echo what everyone's saying. We're very much in support of public safety in Cupertino. It's very, very important. And I've always found our sheriffs to be very responsive and helpful. And I certainly wouldn't suggest cutting the services that we are having now. It's really important. Thank you.
Councilmember Chow, 1 minute, please.
Hi. Thank you for all the good services that you provide to Cupertino residents. I think many people don't know how to access those services. So in case people feel that they would like more patrol car for their street or some area that they feel have safety concerns, what they should do?
We have multiple ways of getting a hold of us, whether it's requesting a patrol check. If you're out of town, you can do that online. We can also provide a home security check if you can contact our office. The best way to do is to get in contact with the city, though, and be part of your neighborhood watch group and be part of that discussion where we can come out and provide all the information that we can for each neighborhood watch group. Those questions you just asked right there.
So like the patrol for the foothill for trucks, if they feel more patrol is needed, they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Anytime they can contact us for additional patrol checks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we seeing no other questions. There is a motion. There's a second. Let's vote by roll call votes, please.
Councilmember Chow?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Wei?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Fruin?
Aye.
Mayor Mohan?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so one more item, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a informational memo on the city's 311 program. I watched it this afternoon. I found it very informative and also just kind of adds a little chuckle to the night. So hopefully you'll enjoy it just as much as I did. Video, please go ahead and play it.
Spot a tree or branch down in your neighborhood? 311 and it's done. Submit your request to the city by going to the Cupertino Connect app. We respond quickly and fixed most requests in less than 3 days. Have an issue? 311 and it's done.
Oh. Okay, so that ends our council meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Would you like to hear future, the very last section?
Okay, are
Future
we going to do
agenda?
future agenda items? The city clerk wants to make sure we don't skip any item here, so future agenda items, anything? There is a list of future agenda items anyway, and I think the process is city manager, you bring it back once every quarter?
It's coming back at the next council meeting on the 18th.
Excellent, okay. Councilmember Moore?
I did have one. I'm concerned about the women SV comments we heard earlier in the evening, and I would like to see if there's a second to perhaps see that item come back and perhaps also have an informational memo about it. I have read some articles in the past about this issue, and I would like to know if there's something that we can do about it at this point, and I would like to understand how we vetted them to begin with.
Could we get an informational item with the city's involvement in the contract, which
we can definitely put an informational memo together. My understanding is that was a one-time community grant funding that was issued to Women SV in addition to $1,000 mayor's fund pledge to the organization, and that was it. But definitely can follow up with staff and provide informational. I don't believe that we have any further contractual transaction with the organization.
Okay.
Thank you. And I would, if we are to support women who are families who are victims of domestic violence, we want to make sure that we've really vetted the organizations thoroughly. If there's anything that we can do to make sure that we aren't selecting organizations, we are not proud to be doing so.
Okay. I
So,
see.
Mayor,
Councilmember Wei, yeah.
I think this is worth investigation, but we're going to let the city manager and the city attorney investigate it first before we want to put it on the agenda item.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got the direction, and I think that's probably enough discussion for something that's not on the agenda at this point. But I think we understand the direction.
Councilmember Chow, last comment, please.
I wonder, I think it was requested in the past we could have statistics of the 311 program. So was that already in some memo?
There was a memo to council last year in November.
Okay, okay, I don't, okay. So then, thank you for making that video to promote the program, and yeah.
Okay, so that was the last comment, and I think we are actually done for this evening. All right, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.